By the time you're 5 years old and I'm 9 years old, our parents split. So I want to talk a little bit about that actually. We're very young. Our parents get divorced, and eventually our mother moves us like 285 miles. I've done the calculation. Yes, that's how ingrained it is. She moves us 285 miles away, but there is this period of time between their split and between that move where we're young and we're spending, most of the time at mom's house, some of the time at dad's house. I'm curious, what do you remember from that time period of like our parents splitting, but before we moved away?
Not a lot. But you got to remember, I was going into first grade. I was 5 years old when our parents got divorced. So there wasn't a whole lot. I do remember the fire starts with an
Hemingway.
H. Hemingway.
Hemingway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I also remember this very random event that, mom had me to come get you from the car or something. And I was shaking my finger at you and you closed the door on my finger. But, other than that, I mean, I don't have memories besides what we have on video, before our parents' divorce. But of course, what wound up coming from that as we're talking about it, and that will come later on in another story in my adult age, is that's the root of all of my anger.
Is the divorce itself.
Yeah.
I'll briefly share because, like you, it really comes to light later. But what I remember is being asked by the judge, who did we want to live with?
Yes,
And my memory tells me that we both said dad.
I believe so.
And then he awarded mom custody anyway. And it's not like I don't love our mother and I didn't want to live with her, but he asked. We
Right.
said dad. But then he awarded custody to our mother anyway. And for me, I found out much later that was the root of a lot of my anger, because my anger is rooted in feeling unheard and dismissed,
Okay.
right? And how better to demonstrate that you're being unheard and dismissed than to ask your preference and then simply go against it. Like, why did you
Right.
even bother asking me?
Yeah. Because, for me, there was definitely a lot of resentment there toward mom for many, many years. Even through the good times, there was resentment in the background. Because then, once I got to an age where our stepfather didn't care for me, you know, that really turned the house into a war zone.
Yeah, so let's kind of move in that direction. Our parents split. We're from a broken home, this broken marriage. I think it's noteworthy that our mother was our father's third failed marriage.
Yes.
So this was old hat for him. There was quite an age gap that had probably a significant role in our parents splitting up, amongst other things. But, when there's like a 20 some odd age gap, it's just going to be wild. Broken home, broken marriages, a lot of instability. I remember Hemingway mom and dad had bought that house. And so it was the first house we had owned. And before that, I remember living in two places. I don't know that you would have. The first place I remember, I don't think you were born yet. So maybe it was the second place, but that's neither here nor there. So Hemingway was a sense of stability for a very short period of time. And then after that, the instability just flows. I mean, we're moving from apartment to apartment. We're moving across state. We're changing schools. There's just a ton of instability. So it's 1990 when mom moves us from Buffalo across the state, 285 miles away from our father. 1990, I'm 10, about to be 11. So you're 6. Like,
Yeah.
we're 10 and 6, and not only has our home been broken, now we're being ripped away from our father. And
Right.
lucky if we get weekend visitation with him, because 285 miles is quite a commitment to make every single weekend, to get in the car and drive, 6+ hours. So we get ripped away. I'm wondering, that particular transition, again, what if anything about that transition from Buffalo to Durham do you even recall?
Not terribly much. I do remember writing a report about seeing my dad's face, our dad's face, when he walked out of that courtroom. It's like I
Mm,
just knew in my heart that I wasn't going to see him for a while. And I know that he was there in the beginning, but what I really remember is the gap, the not seeing him for over 6 years, and then to turn around and have to ask you if that really is our dad the first time that I see him after 6 years, 11 years
oof.
old, right? 12 years old.
Yeah. Yikes. So we're ripped away from dad. Mom gets remarried in a year or two. And then with our stepfather, two more kids come along. And so there's a lot of different things we could get into, but I think, just to kind of paint the picture of this time period, it's this broken home and then there's this new family. And I remember at mom and Gary's wedding, mom wanting me to congratulate quote dad. Like go over there and say, "Congratulations, dad."
Mm.
Yeah. That was it's interesting to reflect back all these years later on just, you know, feelings and emotions and all that stuff, but I won't get into it. But
Well, that's a good
so they get
teaching moment. Let
yeah,
us never force on our children to call the step parent mom or dad.
yeah,
Leave that up to the child to accept
yeah,
the new life that you're putting them in the middle of.
yeah. It's a good point. And so our younger brothers come along uh in 93 and 94, and by 94 things are like you said, it's a war zone in the house. I remember this interesting story, to me anyway, about so Lawrence is a toddler at this point, and he's got like some building blocks, and I'm on the floor and I'm playing with the building blocks and I'm building something up, and you're coming over and you're knocking them down. And this is
Mm.
infuriating me to the point that I think all I do at one point is I either like yell at you or I kind of do that motion like I'm gonna come after you, but I don't. And Gary steps in. And I don't even remember what he said, but I kind of remember being like nose to nose with him, like not saying the kindest of things, just really angry, really
Mhm.
angry. At the entire situation, right? At the fact that he's in my face, at the fact that he's coming to your defense, at the fact that like I'm just sitting here playing with the baby and his toys, like I'm just mad. And I don't know that that was the catalyst, but very shortly after allowed us to go live with dad. She's like, I can't handle all of this, right? She's got a newborn at this point that was a premature delivery. So she's dealing with that. She's dealing with the fact that you and I do not get along with Gary. We barely get along with each other. Sometimes we're on, sometimes we're off. Go ahead.
So, mom actually just had a conversation about that. So, part of the reason behind it, which is so interesting that she brought that up, his brother Tom had just shut down the shop, the guaranteed
Oh,
work that he had all the time. So,
yeah.
his drinking increased tremendously during that time. And she's mentioned many times before, she said, at that time, I no longer had a husband, but I had 5 kids and I couldn't do 5 kids by myself. Him being,
Interesting.
number 5, of course.
And I love that you used the term teachable moment earlier. So I'm going to use that, right? Like to kind of
Yeah.
interject like a teachable moment. All of these years later, it's only all of these years later and walking with Christ, can I now look back and reflect on and try to put myself in Gary's shoes, right? In that time period of my
Right.
life, I had no sympathy, no empathy for Gary. I did not like that man. But all these years later, walking with Christ and getting at the root of my anger, I can look back and say, you know what? Wow, here's a man who just lost his employment, has his second child within 18 months, and it's a premature child. And he's got these two older boys. And so he's got this family he's got to take care of. And he just lost his source of income. I obviously had no awareness of that at the time. And even if I did, I probably would have had zero sympathy for him. But all these years later, I can look back and say, wow,
Yeah.
wow, that man needed hope in what was an otherwise hopeless situation. I have all these mouths to feed. I have all these responsibilities and I'm losing my source of income.
Right.
It must have been really difficult.